There are people who walk through life carrying what no one sees, silent weights, invisible burdens. They seem strong, tireless. But inside, they are breaking. Like a packhorse, they keep moving, even when their legs tremble. Why do we keep carrying more than we should? Maybe the answer lies not in ourselves, but in nature. There is a kind of exhaustion that sleep cannot fix. It lingers in the silence between emails, in the long stares during morning commutes, in the quiet tears shed behind closed doors. Emotional exhaustion is not loud. It doesn't scream for help. It whispers, day by day, just one more task, just one more favor, just one more sacrifice. And somehow, we obey. We keep going. We keep carrying. Even when everything inside us is begging to stop. It often starts innocently. A new responsibility here, an extra task there. We say, yes, to help a friend, to please a boss, to be a good partner, parent, student. Slowly, the weight adds up. We forget how to say no, not because we're weak, but because somewhere along the way, we began to tie our worth to our usefulness. We think, if I stop, I'll disappoint someone. Or worse, if I stop, who will I be? And so, we don't stop. Not even when we should. You've probably met someone like this. Or maybe you are this someone. The always reliable coworker who never takes a break. The parent who wakes up tired and goes to sleep exhausted, yet never misses a beat. The friend who checks in on everyone but never shares how they're doing. These people are not just strong, they are overextended. They are not just helpful, they are depleted. And often, they don't know it until something breaks. Emotional exhaustion doesn't look the same for everyone. Sometimes it shows up as irritation. Short tempers, snapping at loved ones for small things. Sometimes it comes as apathy, nothing excites you, nothing feels worth it. Other times, it's masked as perfectionism, overachievement, or even endless productivity. Society praises these behaviors, calling them ambition or dedication. But beneath them, something is quietly dying, the self. This constant self-sacrifice creates a deep emotional disconnection. People begin to live in survival mode, moving through life on autopilot. Joy becomes rare, spontaneity disappears, and everything starts to feel like a chore. The world begins to feel heavier, not because it changed, but because you've been carrying it too long. And the tragedy is, most people don't realize it until their body forces them to, through burnout, illness, or complete emotional shutdown. The pressure to keep performing, keep smiling, keep giving, it's relentless. Some of it is external, yes. Jobs with unrealistic demands, families that rely too much, cultural expectations that reward martyrdom. But some of it is internal, too. Many people have inherited a silent belief that rest equals laziness, that saying no means being selfish, that needing help is a weakness. These beliefs are not just harmful, they are dangerous. Let's be honest, we often admire people who carry more than they should. We call them heroes. But what if we've been celebrating suffering disguised as strength? What if, instead of applauding the person who never rests, we learn to honor the person who knows their limits? It's time to rethink what real strength looks like. Because true strength isn't about how much you can endure. It's about knowing when to let go. The emotional packhorse, the person who silently carries the burdens of others, who keeps walking even when their spirit is fractured, is everywhere. And often, they wear smiles. They get things done. They don't complain. But inside, they are stretched thin. This chapter is not to shame them, but to name them. To give words to what they've been feeling but couldn't explain. To offer a mirror and say, you are not alone. And you're not weak. You're just tired. Understanding emotional exhaustion means recognizing that it is not failure. It's feedback. It's your mind and body trying to tell you, this is too much. It's a quiet alarm ringing beneath your thoughts, asking for relief, for boundaries, for healing. But we have been trained to ignore that sound, to push through, to toughen up, to keep going. And so, many of us live as emotional beasts of burden, dragging invisible loads across the years. But how do we stop? How do we even begin to put down what we've carried for so long? That journey starts with awareness. With asking new questions. With recognizing that your value isn't tied to your productivity. That your worth doesn't increase with your sacrifice. That being tired all the time isn't normal, it's a warning. You are not here to be a machine. You are not a tool. You are a person. And people need rest. People need care. People need space to breathe. As we move forward, we'll explore how this pattern mirrors one of the most misunderstood and noble creatures in the animal kingdom, the packhorse. We'll see how its nature, obedient, strong, and silent, reflects the emotional behavior of those who carry too much for too long. And maybe, through its story, we'll begin to reclaim our own. Because in the end, the question isn't how much more you can carry. The question is, what are you carrying that you were never meant to hold? In the vast tapestry of the animal kingdom, the packhorse stands as a quiet symbol of endurance and silent suffering. Unlike wild stallions galloping freely through open plains, the packhorse is a creature molded by duty. Its world is one of constant labor, a life spent bearing burdens heavier than its frame seems built to carry. Yet, it moves forward without complaint, step by steady step, a living emblem of sacrifice. These animals have been bred and trained over centuries to carry heavy loads, supplies, goods, sometimes even people, across rugged terrain where no wheels can roll. Their hooves beat the rocky paths tirelessly, day after day, through heat, rain, and cold. Their backs stoop under sacks, crates, and burdens that would break lesser creatures. But the packhorse rarely rebels, its nature is submission paired with unwavering resilience. Physically, a packhorse is strong but not invincible. Its muscles ache beneath the weight, its bones, though sturdy, are not designed for endless strain. Often, its ribs become visible, its coat dull and dusty, its eyes reflecting weariness that no amount of rest can erase. Yet the animal continues, driven not by choice but by instinct and human command. In the wild, such relentless carrying would be unnatural. Animals carry only what they need to survive, shed burdens quickly, and rest when their energy fades. But the packhorse's existence is shaped by a relationship of dependence and exploitation. It is both vital and vulnerable, a beast of burden caught between nature's design and human demand. Socially, packhorses are usually solitary workers, but they are part of a system, a chain of labor where their efforts enable others to thrive. They do not protest, they do not complain. Their endurance is their currency, their value measured by how much they can haul without faltering. In this way, the packhorse becomes a living metaphor for those who bear emotional loads silently, who carry pain and responsibility not because they want to, but because they feel they must. This animal's instincts are simple but powerful. It knows to obey, to move forward even when every step is agony. It does not question its load, it accepts it as given. And like many of us, it learns to hide its wounds, the cuts from rough ropes, the bruises from heavy sacks. Beneath a coat of dust and silence. What makes the packhorse's story so compelling is not just its physical endurance, but its quiet tragedy. It reminds us that strength can be deceptive. That carrying too much, for too long, can erode the very foundation of what keeps us standing. And that sometimes, the heaviest loads are the ones no one sees. By looking closely at this animal, we glimpse a mirror held up to ourselves. We see the toll of invisible burdens. The emotional exhaustion that grows when we carry more than we should, the gradual erosion of spirit under unrelenting strain. In the next chapter, we'll explore this connection in depth. We will trace the parallels between the packhorse's silent suffering and the emotional toll carried by so many humans today. How do our instincts compel us to bear weight beyond our capacity? How does our social environment reward endurance but punish vulnerability? The packhorse teaches us that endurance without relief leads to collapse. The question is, how long can we carry before we break? The packhorse walks a path many humans unknowingly follow. Both carry weight, physical, yes, but also invisible loads of expectation, responsibility, and unspoken pain. Just like the packhorse stoically bearing its heavy sacks, humans shoulder emotional burdens, often alone, often unseen, yet no less crushing. Imagine the packhorse on a narrow trail, its legs trembling but refusing to stop. It doesn't ask for help, nor does it show weakness. The animal's instinct tells it to endure. Its survival depends on obedience, on meeting the demands of the load and the path. Similarly, many people feel compelled to keep moving forward despite exhaustion, driven by internal and external forces, fear of failure, need for approval, love for those who depend on them. Both humans and the packhorse share a silent pact: carry what you must, hide what you feel, and never falter in front of others. The horse's bowed back and worn hooves tell a story of perseverance, much like the tired eyes and forced smiles of someone who says, "I'm fine," but feels empty inside. The weight, whether sacks or stress, deadlines or despair, shapes posture, expression, and spirit alike. Yet beneath the surface, the damage accumulates. The packhorse's ribs show through its skin, its movements grow slower, less sure. In humans, emotional exhaustion manifests as numbness, irritability, insomnia, even physical ailments, headaches, muscle tension, digestive problems. Both bodies send silent signals of distress, cries for rest and renewal that often go unheard. Metaphorically, the packhorse and the exhausted human embody a paradox: strength entwined with vulnerability. The very trait praised, endurance, is also the cause of unseen fractures. Society applauds the strong who don't complain, but this admiration can trap individuals in cycles of self-neglect and denial. This parallel also highlights a universal instinct, the drive to survive, to keep going when every part of you begs to stop. The packhorse's instinctive obedience mirrors the human impulse to meet expectations, to be reliable pillars for family, work, and community. But when carrying becomes endless, that survival instinct can become a burden, not a blessing. The imagery of the packhorse carrying heavy loads is not just a metaphor but a lens through which we can view our own lives. It invites empathy, for ourselves and for others who, like that animal, endure in silence. It challenges us to recognize when we are walking that same dusty, tiring path, and to ask, what are we carrying? Is it ours to bear? And if not, how do we begin to let go? The next chapter will deepen this understanding through scientific insight. We'll explore what psychology and biology reveal about endurance, stress, and the human need for balance. Why do we keep carrying? What happens when our bodies and minds reach their limit? And how can we learn from nature, and from the packhorse, about the importance of release and rest? Before we move on, consider this: in what ways are you like the packhorse today? What loads are you carrying that shape your every step? Recognizing this is the first step toward change. To truly understand why humans often carry emotional loads beyond their capacity, we must look beyond metaphor and into the realms of psychology and biology. Both fields offer illuminating insights into how our brains and bodies respond to chronic stress, much like the packhorse's physical strain from carrying heavy burdens. Psychologically, the phenomenon we call emotional exhaustion, or burnout, arises from prolonged exposure to stress without adequate recovery. It's a state where the mind becomes overwhelmed by demands, whether from work, relationships, or internal pressures, and begins to shut down emotionally. The person feels drained, detached, and unable to cope, much like the packhorse whose muscles ache and spirit wanes under relentless weight. The key to this process lies in the body's stress response system, primarily regulated by the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal (HPA) axis. When faced with challenges, the HPA axis triggers the release of cortisol, the stress hormone, which prepares the body to react by increasing heart rate, energy availability, and alertness. This fight-or-flight response is essential for short-term survival. However, when stressors persist without relief, the HPA axis remains overactive, flooding the body with cortisol continuously. This chronic exposure impairs cognitive function, weakens the immune system, and disrupts emotional regulation. The person, like the packhorse, is stuck carrying an invisible but crushing load that depletes resilience over time. Biologically, endurance animals like packhorses have evolved to sustain heavy physical demands for survival. Their muscles contain a high concentration of slow-twitch fibers, ideal for long, steady effort. But even their bodies have limits. Constant strain causes micro-injuries, fatigue, and, eventually, breakdown. Similarly, human bodies are designed for periods of stress balanced by rest and recovery. Our nervous system relies on the parasympathetic branch, the rest and digest mode, to restore balance after stress. When this system is suppressed by relentless pressure, exhaustion sets in. We lose energy, focus, and motivation. Emotional pain translates into physical symptoms, headaches, muscle tension, insomnia. Scientific studies back this up. Research published in the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology found that individuals who consistently ignore their stress signals risk developing burnout, depression, and even cardiovascular disease. Meanwhile, animal behavior research shows pack animals instinctively slow down or stop when overloaded, signals often ignored in human society. The connection between human psychology and animal biology highlights a profound truth: endurance without rest is unsustainable. The same natural laws govern both species. While the packhorse's burden is visible, the human load is often hidden but equally destructive. Understanding these mechanisms is crucial for breaking the cycle. It emphasizes the importance of recognizing limits, responding to stress signals, and incorporating recovery. It also sheds light on why many people push past exhaustion, because their survival instincts, like the packhorses, compel them to keep going. In the next chapter, we will explore real-life stories that embody this scientific reality. These examples will show how emotional exhaustion and the instinct to endure manifest in everyday lives, revealing the human cost of carrying too much for too long. Before moving forward, reflect on this: what signals does your body and mind send when you are overburdened? Are you listening? In the quiet corners of daily life, many carry invisible burdens heavier than any suitcase or box. Take Emily, a single mother working 2 jobs to keep her children fed and clothed. Every morning, she wakes before dawn, slipping into the role of caretaker, provider, and emotional anchor. Though exhaustion drapes over her like a thick fog, Emily rarely complains. Her burden is silent, yet immense, much like the packhorse plodding onward despite the strain. Emily's story is echoed in James, a mid-level manager in a bustling corporate office. James often stays late, juggling tight deadlines and difficult clients. His colleagues admire his dedication, but few see the toll it takes. Behind the professional smile lies a growing weariness. He feels trapped by expectations, to be strong, competent, and unwavering. Each evening, James returns home drained, his mind buzzing with unfinished tasks, yet unable to rest fully. Another example is Rosa, a nurse on the front lines of healthcare. Her shifts are long and unpredictable, filled with moments of crisis and compassion. Rosa carries not only the physical weight of her duties but also the emotional weight of patients' suffering. Over time, this relentless exposure to stress has frayed her spirit. Like the packhorse whose ribs start to show, Rosa's resilience wears thin, showing in her increasing irritability and bouts of insomnia. These stories reveal a common thread: the instinct to keep going despite fatigue, to bear more than one should. It's a silent agreement between self and circumstance, where rest is postponed, and limits ignored. The packhorse carries sacks on its back. These individuals carry responsibilities, worries, and fears, heavy loads that erode well-being. But the analogy goes deeper. Just as the packhorse's legs eventually falter if the load is not eased, so too can the human body and mind collapse under prolonged strain. Emily's occasional panic attacks, James' growing disinterest in hobbies, and Rosa's emotional breakdowns are warnings, signals of overload. What these examples teach us is crucial: endurance alone is not strength if it leads to harm. Recognizing the burden is the first step toward change. Asking for help, setting boundaries, and prioritizing self-care are acts of courage, not weakness. This chapter's stories are not just tales of struggle, they are mirrors reflecting the hidden battles many fight daily. They remind us that beneath every strong exterior lies a complex, vulnerable being, deserving of rest, support, and understanding. In the next and final chapter, we will explore the lessons these stories teach us. We will reflect on how acknowledging our limits and learning from nature's wisdom can guide us toward balance, healing, and renewed strength. Before we move on, think, whose story do you relate to most? What invisible load are you carrying today? As we reach the end of this journey, it's time to pause and reflect on what the stories, science, and metaphors have revealed. The image of the packhorse, stoic yet burdened, is more than just a symbol. It is a mirror reflecting our own human experience with emotional exhaustion and resilience. One of the most profound lessons is this: true strength is not found in endlessly carrying weight, but in knowing when to set it down. The courage to acknowledge our limits does not diminish us. It honors the delicate balance between endurance and self-care that sustains life. It invites us to listen to our bodies, minds, and hearts, not as signs of weakness, but as essential signals guiding us toward well-being. Understanding our instincts, both human and animal, helps us recognize the natural rhythms of stress and recovery. Just as the packhorse slows down or rests when overloaded, we too must create space for restoration. This might mean asking for help, setting boundaries, or simply allowing ourselves moments of stillness without guilt. Reflecting on emotional exhaustion as a universal experience connects us to a larger human story, one of vulnerability, resilience, and growth. It encourages empathy toward ourselves and others who bear hidden struggles. By embracing this awareness, we foster a gentler relationship with our own needs and a deeper appreciation for the strength found in balance. This journey also inspires a call to action, to cultivate habits that honor our limits before breaking points arrive. Prioritizing rest, practicing mindfulness, and seeking support are not signs of failure but steps toward lasting health and fulfillment. In embracing these lessons, we transform from packhorses bearing silent burdens into beings capable of thriving with mindful care. We become advocates for our own well-being and compassionate witnesses to the struggles of those around us. As you move forward, carry this thought with you: strength is a dance between endurance and rest, and in honoring both, we unlock the fullest expression of our humanity. What part of your own story will you rewrite today, with newfound wisdom and kindness?